Hello, my name is Gabriel Escobedo,
Hi, I'm Madeline Plachey,
and you are listening to Playthings, a theater
a
creator
theater creator
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we do here. Um, if you're just now joining us, welcome to our very first episode. Um, and let's get started, right?
Yeah, today we are going over Arsenic and Old Lace. It is a comedy crime. Um, Arsenic and Old Lace is a straight play, so it has no music to it. It is also done in the same room, the entire play, and it is by Joseph Kesselring. I think that's how you say it. Kesselring? We'll go with that, Joseph Kesselring.
So to kick things off,
Yeah.
we're just gonna start out with a little bit of context about the author and the time period he lived in. So from what I
Ooh.
have found, Joseph Kesselring was born in New York City on June 21st of 1902. In his youth, he was a singer. He was a tenor, and that was something that stuck with him throughout his lifetime. He had a lifelong love of music and performing. And so at age 20, he became a music teacher and directed theater productions at Bethel College in Newton, Kansas. How he got to Newton, Kansas, I will never know. Because truth be told, the information about his life seems to be pretty scarce. I pulled from a few different sources, but including dramatist play service and weirdly enough, it seems like it all came from the same Wikipedia page, so take that as you will.
I mean, on Wikipedia, it does mention the inspiration and the goer's house. Goer's house is now home of the college president. Of what college? Wait, did I read that wrong? Oh, Bethel College.
Bethel College, girl.
Duh. It is also a movie, and I believe they've remade the movie once, but it is a super old black and white movie that is super cute. Uh, yeah, fun little play.
I have not yet seen this movie, but we will have to watch together. So going on, we jump from age 20 to age 30 when he married a woman named Charlotte Elsheimer. Not much is found about her either. And then it goes on. So between 1933 and 1967, he authored 12 plays. Um, in 1933, he wrote Aggie Appleby, Maker of Men, which, you know, this is not something I've heard of, but that's what this podcast is for, learning about theater we may not have known about, and finding new and exciting ways to bring that to life. Even if it is from 100 years ago. Heck, we have plays from thousands of years ago, so we'll get to that in time.
Those would be really interesting to read. I think it'd be funny if we did a segment like where we read old Shakespearean plays and attempted to to decipher the language.
You know what? That may have to become like a once a month kind of thing where we just set aside 15 minutes to read out some good Shakespeare
That would be pretty funny. Mm.
and not try to crack ourselves laughing.
Okay, I got it. I got it. Have you ever seen there's an SNL bit, and once a year on the last episode of the season, the two news guys make each other segments to read, and they have to read them off the cue cards on like live. What if we
Oh,
found like what we think is like the most difficult Shakespearean little excerpt to read, and we send them to each other, and we have to read them sight
oh god.
unseen, sight reading.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah.
You gotta
God, that's
practice
gonna
your
be
sight reading somehow, Gabriel.
You know what, Madeline? You're not wrong.
Ooh,
Anyway,
we should add that. You should introduce like that you're an aspiring actor. We did not do
ah,
bios on ourselves.
we did not. Right. We'll do them now.
Yes.
So like Madeline said, my name is Gabriel. I am 26 years old. I grew up in West Texas. Graduated from Texas Tech University with a degree in interdisciplinary arts studies, which is just a fancy schmancy way of saying I studied theater and religion. Um, I now live in Austin, Texas, where I continue to engage my personal aspirations through auditions for film and theater. I am an actor chiefly, but I also have interests in costume design and a little bit of sound design. Madeline, let's hear about you.
Hi, I'm Madeline. I am currently studying theater design and technology as a BFA at Texas Tech and also minor in architecture, which really sucks. Um, but I'm getting there. Uh, After this, I hope to be a props manager for different TV shows and movies, possibly. I also would like to work for Saturday Night Live someday, so you will hear me reference Saturday Night Live probably once an episode and not even on purpose, but it happens. So,
And I
going
love
on
you
that.
all the more for it.
Would you like me to do a summary?
Yes, yes, go ahead. Go wonkers and I'll pull up my notes. If I feel like you left anything out, I'll chime in.
All right. So, Arsenic and Old Lace, like I said, is a straight play. It is performed in one room the entire time, which is inside of the homes of. Okay, I need my character list pulled up. I'm sorry. Let me try that one more time.
No, you're good. I have it written down, so I'll just chime in. So there it's located in the homes of Martha and Abby. I don't quite remember their
Martha
last
and Avery Brewster?
Brewster, that's right.
Yes, Brewster. Um, Abby and Martha live with their nephew, Teddy Brewster. They often invite lonely people to come and stay in their spare bedroom at their house. And they're super nice. Everyone on their street really loves them. They are elderly women. They make food for everybody. So, I mean, who wouldn't love that, right?
And Madeline, I think you're forgetting to mention one very important thing. These old ladies are loaded. Cash money
Oh,
coming
yeah.
out the wazoo.
Oh, yeah. So, even though their house isn't super big, I believe it has three bedrooms, an old office where Dr. Brewster used to work. Um, I believe that was their son, was kind of what I gathered. I think, right?
Uh, yes. Their
He's
son or their
only
brother?
mentioned. He is dead. There is Dr. Brewster is dead. But so their house is not super big. It does have a basement, which their nephew Teddy, the reason he lives with them is he has some form of mental condition where he fully believes he is Theodore Roosevelt. Um, he does not know any the wiser other than that Abby and Martha are related to him. I'm not sure that I gathered that he knows how or why, but he does love them. And they've taken care of Teddy for a long time. So the play kind of starts out with Abby and Martha. I believe the first big section is when they are speaking to Elaine about she is dating their other nephew, Mortimer. Um, well, they live in Brooklyn. I mean, basically, Act One, they speak with Elaine and Mortimer. Mortimer actually becomes engaged to Elaine and then reveals that there is a secret third nephew named Jonathan. And that is it. basically where Act 1 ends, I believe. Mm-mm.
Yes, yes. Um,
Oh,
so that's a quick, brief synopsis. But if you get into more of the nitty gritty details, ah, my goodness. So, what I have written down for my notes about Act One, the first thing I wrote down after after like the character names and the scene information. Oh, by the way,
mhm.
this time period is it's noted as the present, but the play was written like in the 1940s, so
The
the
play is
context surrounding it is
presently during World War II.
World War II, right? But the first thing I wrote down after as I was reading the first act was casual murder, and I just
Oh,
underlined that.
yes.
S-
I couldn't remember if they introduced that in 1 or 2, but yes.
It
So
was definitely one.
our super, super sweet old ladies, Abby and Martha, are actually murderers. Surprise, surprise. They do it out of the kindness of their heart. They
Yes, they do. They take in what would probably then be called tramps, people without, friends or family, people who won't notice that are missing.
I
Oh,
didn't realize you called men that as well, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm pretty sure you do. I've only really ever heard it. Well, I see what you mean. I
I've
just remember.
only ever heard that term referred to for women,
You know what? We'll have to look that up.
except for Lady and the Tramp.
Lady in the Tramp.
The
Tramps.
dogs. The tramp is a dog that has no family.
Exactly. So there we
Okay,
are. We just solved it.
I'll take it. So yes, these men, typically older, similar to these ladies, come and are looking for a place to stay. And once they reveal that they have no family left, Abby and Martha offer him elderberry wine, is what it's called, which is actually laced with arsenic. Uh, and Teddy, who believes he is Theodore Roosevelt, is digging in the Panama Canal, which is their basement. It's kind of hard for me to picture a basement that is just dirt, I guess.
Yeah, no, that was surprising.
Yeah, it's just dirt.
Just a
No, because I'm thinking the basement is built in case of bombs, right? Maybe during World War One. Because this is a family home, so it's been around for a while. But why would you build your bomb shelter with just dirt? I don't know, that weirded me out. But it works out well for these ladies because all 12 of their victims end up buried in this basement.
Yes. So the way we find out that they're murderers is actually part of the great comedy of this. So Mortimer's just proposed to Elaine, and she goes off to tell her father, and will return soon. Uh, Meantime, the aunts, Aunt Martha and Aunt Abby, have been acting really weird, especially around um, like the window seat. And they've been trying to get everyone out of the house that they can what we eventually learn will be have a service for the person that they just murdered, in that person's denomination of faith, because
They
they are
do. They're
yeah.
doing it out of the kindness of their heart, and they even ask what religion each of these men practice so that they can perform a ceremony in their respected religion.
It's
They're not
sweet in
picky.
a twisted way if you think about
They're
it.
they're not picky, Gabriel.
They
They
aren't.
respect all religions.
They do. But so Mortimer, uh for one reason or another, I can't quite recall, opens the window seat and sees a body in there. However, he thinks that Teddy is the one who did it because Teddy's mental condition is not at its peak, and so he immediately calls the ants down, and he's like, we need to get the doctor out here. Teddy needs to sign these papers because they have forms for him to go to a mental institution after
Once
the ants pass. And Mortimer, not realizing that it was the answer to this, is trying to protect them from Teddy.
I found a source that says um this source is the Morning Call. It is a news article and it is about arsenic and old lace. It says many of these characters have very real conditions. Teddy suffers from a very rare diagnosis called isolated delusion. He actually believes that he is Teddy Roosevelt, but in all other aspects of his life, he is completely normal. His sisters have a messianic complex and believes that they have the right to decide who should live and who should die. They actually think they are doing these old men a favor by killing them off, and Mortimer is an antisocial personality who bears a resemblance to Boris Karloff. That's not true.
No, so it's actually Jonathan who is introduced towards the end of this act. That is described as Boris Karloff, which, if you don't know, he played Frankenstein in Frankenstein.
I'd just like to say the person that wrote this article paid less attention to this play than anyone.
Probably.
It was not Mortimer. I'm glad I'm right about that. I was like, wait, no, that's the other guy. But in a very roundabout way, this sums up Act One.
It does, yes. Jonathan's introduced, dark, brooding, and his face looks is best described as like burned by acid. So think Frankenstein from Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein, because Boris Karloff was the actor for Frankenstein in all those movies. Have I said Frankenstein enough?
A couple times. A couple times.
I lost count.
Oh, that's somewhat unfortunate. He's a somewhat attractive man. A little creepy.
Oh, oh, creepy.
But he's not ugly.
No.
Some good stage makeup, damn. Anyway, so do you want to read your summary of Act Two?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
Act Two. Um, Jonathan has arrived at the aunt's house with an associate known as Einstein. Um,
We believe he has maybe a German accent.
yeah, something like that. Um,
He refers to Jonathan, and it is written this way as Chonny, Chonny. Um, so the author actually wrote in his accent, which I think is really cool. You don't see that a lot.
you don't. Um, but I will touch back on that later because there was something about that kind of like was a little maybe not the best, especially with
Okay.
some language that comes in later.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so Teddy meets Mr. Einstein, and uh, he, as Teddy Roosevelt, draws some similarities between maybe someone the actual Roosevelt knew. I was a little unclear about that, but anyway, moving forward, Jonathan and Einstein, we find out, have murdered a man named Mr. Spinoso. Um, so so far in the show, we have a murder count of two. Two present bodies,
Two
uh,
present dead bodies.
two present dead bodies, excluding the ones that are in the basement.
They're already
Uh,
buried though, so they don't count.
yes, they don't count. They are at peace. They've found their peace in the aunt's basement. Well, I actually wrote a note about them, just calling them crazy biddies, and I was like, where did the word biddies come from? Turns out it's indeterminate, but that's neither here nor there. So what happens in the ensuing moment is a bit of comic comedy where Jonathan is trying to get the aunts to like go upstairs and go to bed so that he can hide the dead body there at the house. Um, while they're trying to get him out, one because they don't like him because apparently he was a total, bad guy at in his youth when they were raising him, and they're also just trying to get him out so that they can have their service for the man they murdered, Mr. Hoskins, and that way Teddy can bury him very quickly.
So, I believe that Jonathan, kind of the way they describe him, actually fits in the 9 early signs for serial killers. Besides the way his family, and we don't actually know the way his family treated him necessarily, but he is described as doing things like torturing small animals, torturing his siblings. This says arson as well as one of them. I don't specifically remember arson, but he definitely was terrorizing almost everybody he encountered as a child. And that's kind of why they were all really afraid of him.
I hadn't pieced that together, but thank you, Madeline, for knowing the traits of serial killers.
I listen to a lot of true crime, all right? Also antisocial. That is also, but like extremely antisocial.
Oh my gosh, are you a serial killer?
No. I'm talking to you right now.
This is true. This is true. So, um, what happens next is that Elaine returns, looking for Mortimer, and Jonathan tries to intimidate her because she is. He thinks that she saw them trying to move the body from the car out on the street into the aunt's house. And so he begins to threaten her when Mortimer shows up. Um, he lists the previously mentioned tortures of different people and animals. Um, but now Jonathan and
Serial killer.
Mortimer,
Serial killer
Jonathan,
vibes. All the way from childhood to now.
um, what happens now is that they are trying to.
We think possibly murder Elaine because they believe she's lying about seeing them carry a body inside. And she's like, "No, no, no, I swear, I didn't see that. I just, didn't know other people lived here now. Sorry."
Yeah,
And trying to run away, but Jonathan kind of, catches her and is attempting to, we think, kill her. We're not really sure. I don't think it specifically said, did it?
it doesn't, but Mortimer shows up just in time.
Yes, Mortimer comes back from his job, which I believe we forgot to mention. Mortimer works as a play critic in their town in Brooklyn, and he typically goes to see shows at night and reviews them for the paper the next day. So he could not get anybody to cover his shift in the first act after discovering his aunts were murderers. Um, and so he actually had to go finish, I believe, the last half of the play so that he could review it and write like a really crappy review.
Yeah, he hates theater.
Yes.
So, buddy, you're in the wrong field if you wanna get stuff done. So, something I forgot to mention was that between Elaine showing up and Jonathan and Einstein grabbing the body from the car, Teddy actually came downstairs and removed the body from the window seat, which is where Jonathan and Einstein hide their body. And
When
so,
Elaine shows up.
yes, just before Elaine shows up, and once Mortimer shows up, they're both Jonathan and Mortimer are trying to keep each other away from the downstairs window seat, which now houses Spinazzo.
Yes.
Elaine is frustrated because Mortimer runs her off just after like having proposed to her. Um, although part of me feels like he proposed to her in the first place just to get rid of her the first time. I can't remember. No, maybe I've got that backwards. Did he propose to her before or after he found out they were
He had proposed before,
okay?
and then, as they're kind of celebrating and she goes to tell the aunts in the other room, I believe is when he found the body. So, they're all excited and all of a sudden he's found this dead body and he's like, "Yes, yes, go tell your father and leave the house and please go."
Yes, okay. But now he's just trying to run her off because there is a dead body again. He wants her gone. So this is the second time he tries to get her gone.
Yes.
Um, and when she refuses, Mortimer's like, "Oh, hey, I'm not gonna marry you." He gets her gone, and then he discovers there's another body, and who does he think has done it this time? Teddy.
Teddy. I thought he refused to marry her because he realized that everyone in his family was a murderer and that she just shouldn't be with him.
No, I think that was his excuse. Like, we can't marry each other because everyone in my family is crazy, you know? And I might be crazy too, and I can't put you in through that.
Well, like
Uh,
he is trying to get rid of her, but I think there's also, he's kind of a stern and strange person, but I think he does actually love her. But he's like, "Oh my gosh, my brother is a murderer, Teddy's a murderer, like my aunts are murderers. I can't risk it." He's like, "We're all crazy and I'm related to these people." And so he's like, "Please leave so that I don't kill you because I don't even know what I'm capable of at this point."
this probably this probably sounds bad, but the possibility that there was genuine concern that he might kill her totally went over my head. I just thought he wanted her gone.
I don't know that he necessarily was scared he would kill her, but he definitely was like, "Everyone in my family is batshit crazy, and I can't put you through this because I'll probably end up the same way." Or like his kids are gonna end up the same way. And he didn't tell her this, but he's thinking, what if our kids murder us? Like, oh my God. Everyone in my family is a murderer.
Dun dun dun. No, no. Yeah, I get not wanting to marry a murderer. I
Yeah.
mean, I just it's bad for your health, you know? So anyway, to wrap up act 2, an officer arrives because throughout this whole thing, Teddy's been playing a bugle loudly and running upstairs yelling charge, thinking his, Roosevelt's leading men into battle. And it's annoying the neighbors. Um, we noticed Jonathan try to avoid him, and for good cause. And uh, O'Hara, Officer O'Hara wants to. I didn't write down exactly what caused this, but I know Mortimer agrees to hear out a pitch for a play that Officer O'Hara is writing.
So Officer O'Hara does not know what Mortimer does for work until Mortimer reveals that he's Mortimer Brewster. And Officer O'Hara is like, "Oh my gosh, you're the guy that writes the critiques of the plays in the newspaper. Like, would you hear out my play that I'm writing?" Mortimer is like, trying to get him out of the house now too because people just keep showing up. Um, and so he's like, I'm not creative. I just review the plays." And he's like, "That's perfect. Like, I'll be creative and then you help me get the words down on paper." And so now Mortimer is arguing with Jonathan to get Jonathan out of the house. He's arguing with aunts about um I believe about, hiding their body and figuring out, how crazy they are. And then now this officer is here and he's like, "I don't want to hear your freaking play right now. We're dealing with something that I cannot tell you, so it's even harder to get you out of this house." And the ants, they kind of get what's going on. So they're like, "Hey, we'll make dinner for everybody. Let's let's go make some sandwiches. O'Hara, come to the kitchen with us. Why would you eat out here? You gotta eat in the kitchen." And Mortimer's like, "Yeah, yeah, go eat in the kitchen." And O'Hara just keeps coming in and out of the kitchen. to try to get Mortimer to listen to his play idea.
And in that coming in and out of the kitchen, uh, Mortimer discovers that there is Mortimer now knowing that there is another body in the uh,
Oh yeah, he figures
window
out that it
seat.
was Jonathan and Einstein's body and not Teddy's. So Teddy is still not a murderer. Like, good for Teddy. It's a little
It was
crazy, but not killing anybody. It's the safe crazy.
yeah, he's the same kind of crazy, the safe crazy. And so uh, as Mortimer deals with Officer O'Hara again, Einstein comes up out of the basement where he was encouraged strongly by Teddy to go dig the Panama Canal. Discovers that there is Hoskins' body down there. And so once he relays this to Jonathan, Jonathan now tries to blackmail Mortimer into letting him stay. Otherwise, he's gonna tell the authorities about the body that's down there. Which Mortimer is like, no, don't do that. The aunts, I have to protect them. And then he goes back to deal with Officer O'Hara again, and the aunts come out. Aunts, ants, I don't know. I say it's either
It's the
way. Sometimes a
accent.
mix. Aunt, aunts.
Okay,
Uh,
but this is this is the best part of the whole play.
so the aunts come out and they tell the truth to Jonathan. Oh, that wasn't Teddy or Mortimer. That was us. We killed him. And we have 12 other bodies in the basement. And Jonathan gets real upset. And I even wrote down in my notes, Jonathan is jealous of their body count. LOL.
He's like,
That's what I wrote down for my notes there.
Jonathan then reveals that he thinks he has killed 13 people. And Einstein is like, nah, dude, it's only 12. The other guy died of pneumonia. And he's like, yeah, he wouldn't have gotten pneumonia if I hadn't have shot him. And Einstein's like, no, he died of pneumonia. Sorry, he doesn't count. And Jonathan says, he counts with me. I say 13. And they argue like that for a couple of lines. And, obviously the ants are like, we don't really care who has the most bodies. Because in their mind, once again, they're not really murdering these
Yeah,
people.
doing
They're
them a
more so
service.
releasing them from a lonely existence, I guess. But Einstein says, and I'm quoting, the old ladies are just as good as you are. And I think that really sets Jonathan off. And it made me laugh so hard. It's so funny to see that scene staged and just they're arguing and the ants are like, okay, and your point?
Exactly, exactly.
And that's actually pretty abruptly how Act 2 ends, is arguing
About
uh
body counts.
about body
The,
counts.
the murder kind, not the hanky panky kind. I thought you would laugh at that, and then you didn't, and now
I'm
I feel
sorry, I
really
was
dumb.
reading.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's probably my favorite part of the whole play. Is Jonathan's like, these old excuse my language, but he's like, these old bitches can't kill more people than me. What? What?
I have to be the most murderous of them all.
That's how you know Jonathan is definitely the most twisted in this family. Is I'm pretty sure that's where we kind of get that Jonathan genuinely is like a serial killer who is just killing people who have pissed him off. And, and look, I'm not saying that it is okay to kill people who are lonely, but the old ladies definitely have more of a reason to do what they're doing than Jonathan ever could.
That this is a side topic, but I was just thinking earlier today and throughout this week how weird it is that like through most of history, people could just kind of murder each other.
Oh, yeah, it was
Like,
easier to get away with.
yeah,
I will say, like I said, I listen to a lot of true crime and um it's very, very rare to hear a case about somebody who had absolutely no connections. Um so I mean, and it probably still happens to be honest, but they just aren't looking for those people necessarily. Like if a neighbor doesn't notice them missing or someone at church doesn't notice them missing, especially, during this timeline, there is not much to go off of. There's no one to report them missing. And if the old ladies aren't giving anybody a reason to think they're murderers, and clearly they're not, the entire community loves them. No one's gonna find these bodies ever. They're gone.
Yeah.
Jonathan's just killing to kill. I mean, bound to get caught eventually. Foreshadowing.
Shadowing.
Act 3 kind of continues the insane cycle. So Act 3 is split up into two scenes. Um, Everyone's kind of in a pissy mood now, and everything is much more complicated. I think, yeah, O'Hara is still there, the officer. Um, the ants are upset, not just because Jonathan now has a dead body in their home, but they're really just upset because he can't be added to their graveyard. And Jonathan is like, "Yeah, Teddy, just go dig another one. We'll throw him on top, something like get rid of him." And they're like, he's not part of us. Get him out of here. Like, you've got to put that man somewhere else." Um, Mortimer is just trying to get Jonathan out of the house. He thinks, I can cover for my aunts. That's not a big deal. But, I've got to get my crazy brother out of the house. And everybody's yelling, pretty upset. Um, do you Oh, I'm gonna also go off of your summary as well. But Teddy mentions, oh, I missed that part. The Teddy part.
Which part?
Oh, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. No, that's what I wanted to talk about. So, so this play is funny, but it does have some problematic language in it. Specifically, comments that are exclusionary of uh, Asian American peoples, as well as
Yes.
some
Yeah,
anti-Semitic
unfortunately,
remarks.
just kind of this is a late disclaimer, but this play is written by an old dead white dude, and a lot of people in theater community now typically try to avoid most of that because a lot of the times it has a racist agenda, a sexist agenda, sometimes anti-LGBTQ as well, and that is just not something we super duper support. And sometimes it's really unfortunate that these old classic, really funny plays, have these things in them. And I think there's definitely something to be said about appreciating the artistic side, but at the same time, knowing that we do not support whatsoever that, these kinds of remarks should ever be repeated on the stage or continued to be presented this way. I definitely think if we were to, put on a show of this play in today's time, obviously it would be very difficult to take it up with whoever is in charge of the script, but I don't think that definitely when I saw it, this was not included um, in the script. So I didn't even. I, I
Yes.
tried.
So thank you for putting that eloquently, Madeline. No, you did well. But yeah, this play has viewpoints which we don't support, and we just wanted to make that very clear. We won't mention what it has like specifically or verbatim because we don't want to do that. But if you read this play, just be aware of that. And it is brief, but it is present, so keep that in mind.
Welcome back to our podcast.
That was the commercial break. Okay, so the aunts are upset with Jonathan trying to bury Spinoso with Hoskins in their basement because they're like, "Who is this guy? We don't know his denomination. He ain't stayed with us.
They
He's got
can't
to
give him
go."
a proper funeral, man.
Yeah, exactly. We can't give him what he needs. Um, and so what do the aunts decide to do? They're gonna try to call the police on their nephew who has a body while they have a body. And Mortimer's like, hold up, don't you see the problem with this? And they're like, yeah, but no, they won't investigate us because we're nice and sweet. And Mortimer's like, whoa, 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 whoa. This ain't how that works, okay?
But we definitely find out here in a couple lines that the ladies were correct
They really
on
were.
that fact.
So, what happens is between this and there, we dive into a little bit of a meta narrative. So after the bit with Teddy about where Teddy's being a little bit insensitive, Mortimer is talking to Einstein, and he's talking about how terrible the play was, and as he's going through the details of like how terrible the play was because it wasn't realistic, there's like a meta narrative going on here because the things that are happening that are being described as happening in the play are happening to Mortimer in real life without him realizing it. So Mortimer doesn't realize, oh hey, he should run. Hey, he should talk to the cop that's right there. Hey, he should not have his back to the wall, and he gets tied up.
I also wrote down the idea of comedic irony, and how the entire time you're reading, watching, viewing, whatever this play, like the different dead bodies, everyone's situations, and of course, everyone in this room doesn't fully understand. No one has just like sat down and had a conversation about what the
Yeah.
hell's going on. And so, you as the viewer are like, "Oh my god, there's so many dead bodies, like, how funny." And the people on stage are just, chilling, or it was so funny to me to picture this cop, and, like, even when I watched it years and years ago, like, this police officer is standing there like, "Listen to my play." He has no clue there's 2 dead bodies just, like, floating around this house somewhere that, these people are losing track of at this point because no one knows the full story anymore. Um And it just continues on like that for quite a while in this play, and it's very funny.
Mortimer's now bound up. Jonathan and Einstein are planning to do something terrible to him, but there's hope, you know? Jonathan and Einstein are about to drink some of the elderberry wine because they found it, and they're like, oh, hey, this is amazing. I haven't had elderberry wine in so long, and it seems amazing. But you know what happens just as they're about to drink it? Teddy. Teddy comes and surprises them, and of course, they drop the wine, and of course, it's the very last wine that there is. After all this madness, O'Hara bursts in, sees that Mortimer's tied up, and what does he do? He starts explaining his plots to his play so that Mortimer has to listen.
Captive
Captive
audience!
audience. That's one way to do it.
So, now O'Hara is explaining to Mortimer, who is bound and has to listen to this. And then we actually have 2 other officers show up, Officer Brophy and Klein, and they knock on the door.
Keep in mind that O'Hara started explaining this like at some point in the night, and when they show up, it's morning.
Yeah, so this play happens in one night. So There's no there's a couple specific times mentioned, but not really when it starts and not exactly when it ends. But it seems like this play basically goes from mid-afternoon to, mid-morning the next day. And we're talking about elderly women who probably don't stay up this late. Mortimer seems like a super disciplined person, probably doesn't stay up this late. Who knows when Teddy sleeps? I'm not entirely sure on that either. I don't even know that he
He
sleeps at
does.
all. And so these people just like up all night. But yeah, so these officers show up in the morning. Everyone's been awake for way too long, and it feels like that moment in the sitcom where like everybody's arguing and talking and talking, talking, and all of a sudden somebody knocks on the door and they're all just like, "What? What just happened?" So they show up, they're concerned, because I think they were also concerned kind of because of the bugle thing and, wanted to discuss Teddy going now because they don't need him blowing a bugle and waking up the whole
Yes.
neighborhood. Jonathan, I believe this is actually where we find out he is legitimately wanted. It's kind of, what is that word? It's kind of like you assume for the most part, especially after he reveals how many people he's killed and that he's oh my god, we totally forgot. So Dr. Einstein is a cosmetic
Oh,
doctor,
yeah.
most likely a fake doctor, but he actually has changed Jonathan's face multiple times. And the reason that people are relating him to Boris is because the last time Dr. Einstein operated on his face, he was drunk. And so, we're assuming Jonathan's face is a little bit grotesque and strange and a little off. I'm thinking more like an uncanny valley kind of
I
feeling.
don't know about you, but I like my
But
plastic surgeons to be, sober. Not that I
yeah,
have plastic surgery,
so I don't either.
just to clarify.
But, anyone operating on you with sharp utensils should probably be completely sober. Um, so, now Jonathan's like, great, there's more cops here. I'm wanted. We gotta do something. So he starts trying to out his aunts to the police, and inevitably attacks them. And then more cops show up, even more. So now it's a cop party. Uh,
Yes.
they realize Jonathan is an escaped convict, and then we find out that Jonathan was actually at some point in um, a hospital jail, basically. Then I believe this is where the ants start being like, "Oh yeah, there's 13 bodies in the basement." But one of them doesn't belong there. But yeah, there's 13 bodies in the basement. And they're just kind of like, "Okay, you guys need to go to bed. Like you need to just calm down." Um Mortimer tries to blame Teddy for it, even though, no one's even believing that there's bodies in the basement. Um and then Mr. Witherspoon, who is Elaine's dad, he's a reverend as well. He shows up with Elaine, who, I completely forgot she left at some point while reading this. I was like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
she
she does,
exists."
she does. Um,
um,
Mr. Witherspoon is
Go ahead.
also the head of the mental institution that Mortimer was trying to get Teddy checked into.
Oh
So
yeah.
once he shows up, Mortimer's like, "Oh, hey, you're here. You know what? Take him with you. Bye-bye."
Um, so the ants have already kind of been like, "Yeah, we've killed people," and no one's believing them because they're the sweetest ladies around. But they kind of decide they're like, "We want to go with Teddy. We're okay with him going early if we can go too." And the officers kind of argue with them a little bit, like, "You can't go if you're not mentally, you know, unstable to some degree." And so, uh, once again, they keep. It was kind of a big back and forth of them being like, "Yeah, we kill people," and everyone's like, "No, you don't. You make pies and sandwiches." Duh.
The best cover
Um,
for murder is being really nice.
Apparently, if you're nice enough, nobody will believe you. Um, Rooney gets a description of Einstein and then thanks Einstein for the description
Of Einstein. Yeah.
of himself. So Einstein gets away, and eventually the ants are able to convince them, to take them with Teddy. And they actually had Einstein sign their papers as a doctor because they needed a doctor's signature.
Even
Um,
though he's a fake. He's a phony.
yeah. So this was some more, dramatic irony for you. So Einstein signs the papers, and the ants are like, they're asking Mortimer as they're about to leave. Do you think they look into those papers and think they're legit? And he's like, no, probably not. Like you'll be fine. Mortimer's totally okay with him going. And they say, no, no, no. We're not concerned about the fake doctor signature. You signed as next of kin. But here's the thing, Mortimer. You're really not related to us at all. You're not a Brewster. And so everybody's kind of like, oh my God, great, big reveal. So Mortimer turns out to actually be the child of, I believe, one of the cooks in their home.
Yes, a widowed cook.
Uh, a widowed cook. And so, obviously these ladies are the nicest ever, and they're like, yeah, we'll take him. It's good. But Mortimer's now happy and ready to be engaged to Elaine again because he's not gonna turn out crazy.
And so all's
um,
well that ends well. Or is it?
except, except,
Because
you know, the old ladies, they're talking to Witherspoon, which is Elaine's father. And he's like, yeah, I only really have Elaine and like I'm lonely. And they're like, hey, you should come eat breakfast with us. Let us pour you some of our wine. He's like, I haven't had elderberry wine in so long. And then that's it.
that's the play.
That's the ending. What really gets me is they were on their way to the mental institution and still somehow stayed at the house after giving the house to Mortimer. That part really. Also, that Mortimer was so happy to have the house,
Yeah, that there were
knowing
12 bodies in there. I mean, 13. Do you really
13.
wanna live in a house?
What's his name got left down there. So like, and they're not even covered, just so you know. I don't know if you caught that. They were never buried. No one ever goes back to Panama in the basement and covers up these bodies. So, like, they're like, "Oh, yes, Mortimer, Elaine, you'll need a home to live in when you're newlyweds." And they're like, "Yay, we're gonna live in." Elaine still has no idea. I mean, she's heard them say stuff, but she probably doesn't believe it either.
Yeah, she's clueless.
And it makes me think of the Cinderella theory of, like, realistically, right, she gets married to the prince, and the next day she's like, "Oh, yeah, the mice and my fairy godmother and the pumpkin," and he, like, has her committed. So I'm thinking, they get married, and Elaine's like, "I really just want you to explain what happened that day." And he's like, "Okay, here's what happened. There's 13 dead bodies in our basement, Elaine." And she's like, "Fuck, we're married. We can't really get divorced in this day and age anymore." And I mean, maybe, but, like, she's the Reverend's daughter. She's not getting a divorce. You kidding me?
Yeah, no, no way.
So, if you really want to go on a wild journey and laugh at some real crazy stuff, I fully recommend this play.
I had never read it. Madeline suggested it to me, and I 5 pages in, I was like, "Okay, this is it. This is the play to start the show off."
I give it a 9 out of 10, and I take off 1 star for the racism.
Agreed. Agreed.
But the rest, the plot of the story is really great. I definitely think, if I could see this play put on in this day and age with some really community conscious thinking, it could be so good and so funny. And I would love to see a modern version of this play.
And I would love to be in a modern version of this play. I think
Who who would you be? If you got to pick your casting and you were cast in this play, who would you be?
Well, I definitely wouldn't be Teddy because that's just a lot of energy that I'm just like not here for. I could see myself as being Mortimer because sometimes I can be just like as uptight and neurotic as Mortimer is in this show. Um, or Einstein because Einstein's just kind of like hanging around and is like, "Hey, all this is going on," and he's just like really casual about it. Like, "Oh, you're telling me about this play while it's actually happening to you? Okay. Oh, hey, by the way, there's bodies in the basement."
Einstein seems to be one of the most sane characters. Like, he does pretty crazy things, but like, he seems to be the most caught up on what's going on. He's smart enough to give the cops a description of himself that's not himself so he can get
Yeah.
away. And think about it, like, Jonathan's face has changed multiple times throughout his life, and the cops still recognize him, but Einstein's like, he has blonde hair and green eyes, and I'm definitely not him. I have brown hair and blue eyes. Like,
Yeah, and he's
bye."
like
And they don't even they don't even question why he's there.
he's
I
like the voice of reason for Johnny that Johnny is totally ignoring.
Yes. I could agree to that. I could see that. He's like along for the shenanigans, but is also like, Johnny, you're kind of stupid. We don't have to keep killing people. It's like that best friend you get roped into like staying with somehow. I can't think of a good example, but like he's like, "Yeah, but he's my best friend, so I got to stick around." I don't really agree with everything he's doing, but like we're best buds. He'll take care of me. It's fine.
Exactly, but he's also kind of threatened by Jonathan at some points.
Yeah, definitely a little as well. It's pretty funny. I like it. I definitely could see it being staged in like a Victorian home setting, which would be so fun. And like I'm imagining the front door being one of those like big doors with like a stained glass at the top. Be
Yeah.
beautiful.
So the copy of the play that I have, uh, which I found on Scribd for anyone who wants to read it, and if they have Scribd, go for it. If not, check out your local, uh, I would probably say collegiate library if you can. Lots of college libraries offer community borrower services, or at least they do here in Texas. I'm not sure how it is around the country, but libraries are a great resource if you want to read new plays, especially college ones, because like public libraries, wonderful institutions, but they lack on the theater manuscripts.
Mine is actually included in a book that I got from the Texas Tech Library. Three plays about crimes and criminals. It is edited with introductions by George Friedley. It includes Arsenic and Old Lace, which we described to you today. A play called Kind Lady by Edward Chodorov, maybe? Detective story by Sidney Kingsley. So, you get two extra ones with it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And to finish my point, because I forgot that I was making one as I mentioned libraries, the back of the copy that I have has a like the original like set design for what the stage could be like. Um, but I also think there are some modifications that could be made to do different, have different like kinds of fun with it, which might be something we offer in the future. Just like maybe different ideas for set designs or maybe some soundscapes. But for now, this is our discussion, and maybe we'll edit that part out because uh, it's a lot to promise.
This is our first ever recording, so it's a little chaotic, a little crazy, but if you stick around and we stick to it, it's gonna get a lot better.
What she said. But yeah, I'm Gabe,
I'm Madeline.
and we have been your theater creators. So thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.